fresh into our collection, we have another prime example of what is quickly vying for becoming our absolute best sellers. This is probably our second most in-demand vehicle behind the Jaguar XF, with two distinctly different audiences. Of course, if you need a family-oriented 4x4, but with a huge spec sheet, fantastic engines in terms of efficiency, and that might not be a sentence you would expect to hear about a Range Rover, but believe it or not, these are a huge step forward over the previous Range Rovers in terms of said efficiency. And as with the Jaguars which we just mentioned, these vehicles do not stick around in our collection for very long, so if you are already on the lookout for one, we would strongly recommend reaching out sooner than later. In fact, within 24 hours, it's not uncommon to see one of these cars leave our collection as soon as it's arrived. Now, this particular car is still under a six-figure mileage example, just kissing 99,000. That is incidentally with a full Land Rover service history. In fact, it was most recently serviced by Guy Salmon Land Rover. It's already had its all-important cam belt change, as well as front and rear pads and discs, in addition to suspension arms as well. That was carried out by Sytner Land Rover also. Still has its original book pack and two keys, and as you can tell, of course, is finished in Chorus Grey, being, as this example is, a facelift generation 2015 HSE example of the Range Rover Sport. But of course, at this point, the main piece of information you would want to know is, what's the price? Well, that is where the biggest difference comes in compared to buying one of these new, around 60+ thousand pound cars then, now is under £14,500. And that, of course, retains the option of low deposit finance if you did want to spread out the cost as well. Now, we mentioned earlier on, of course, the surprisingly good efficiency of these cars, and that's thanks to the 3-litre SD V6 engine. That means on the one hand, you have 300 horsepower, 440 foot-pounds of pulling power, and as you would assume, these are very impressive as holiday cars or towing vehicles. At the same time, though, they are superb long-distance drivers, not only because of the comfort and the fantastic ride quality, but because you can actually average up to 40 miles to the gallon. And again, speaking to its motorway ability, it's even higher, as high as 44. And one of the standout advantages of this newer generation of Range Rover Sport is actually its yearly road tax. You would think over time that the newer a 4x4 would get, it surely would become more and more expensive, particularly these days, but in actual fact, this is hundreds of pounds a year cheaper, in some cases quite literally less than half the price, in fact, of older generation Range Rovers to tax. £345 a year, compared to some older examples being as high as £780. Being a Range Rover, though, of course you would want a laundry list of a spec sheet, and that is exactly what it has. Multiple 12-volt power points, as well as auxiliary and Bluetooth inputs, of course USB connectivity as well, with that touchscreen display, voice-activated navigation, 8-speaker sound system, built-in cruise control, of course, again perfect for the motorway, as you would assume, front and rear parking sensors with reverse camera, day-running LEDs, front and rear, with xenon main lights as well, dual zone climate control. Naturally, if you do intend to use it as a family runabout, the seats are ISOFIX prepped for the kids. Across the board, it combines everything you would want from a large, spacious family car, but also with the kind of luxury which, as we said, would have cost you 4+ times this amount of money when new, and yet retains far better road tax and far better efficiency than you would ever think a 60+ thousand pound 4x4 could ever have. So if you are already considering one of these, well, as we said, they do not stick around for very long, so of course you can reach out regarding this Chorus Grey example via the email address shown right here on screen, or alternately give us a call on 01749 871155 or via our mobile number of 07482 267 439.